Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. The young Australian heavyweight Justis Huni is set to turn pro in October, and for his first fight he'll be contesting for the Australian heavyweight title. So really leaping in feet first into the division, looking to make a splash. He'll be facing the current holder, which is Faiga Opelu, who also goes by the nickname Django. So you can see here the promo poster, Huni front and centre, but Faiga Django Opelu, he's not just some sort of scrub that is just going to fall over. This is a guy that actually has a winning record, and it's not a sort of fight that a regular prospect would take probably until at least, maybe half a dozen or more fights into their career. So there's a bit to unpack with this announcement, because they're really looking to put Huni into the deep end in terms of his first pro fight, make a bit of a splash in the heavyweight division, which will in turn boost his profile and also the buzz and hype that surrounds him. And actually, coming from this part of the world where Justis Huni is, the last time that in the Australasian sort of region, which I live in New Zealand, that there was a similar amount of buzz and hype about a new heavyweight prospect coming into the heavyweight division was Joseph Parker, and that was back in 2012. He, through his amateur career and sort of some good PR, organic sort of developed PR through some fights and other sort of promotional building, developed quite a following early on. And I'm seeing the same thing here with Justis Huni, who, as we know, did medal at last year's World Championships, losing to the eventual winner, Bakadir Jalalov. So it was no shame to lose to Jalalov, who obviously has been an Olympian back in 2016, had been in the pros, and also had been sort of cutting a swathe through the amateur ranks when he dropped back down a year ago. But Justis Huni, there's a lot to like about this guy. 21 years old, he's got good skills. He's been sparring with a lot of sort of top competition in Australia, getting some good rounds with Dempsey McKean, who is a world-ranked fighter at this point. But you can see here from the footage running in the background, Justis Huni, very natural, very fluid. He's a guy that is going to, I think, go a long way in the heavyweight division, and stepping straight into the deep end, contesting for the Australian heavyweight title first up. His backers really must believe in his talent. And fighting Faiga Opelu, it's not exactly the easiest fight in the world, but obviously they think that he can be beaten. And these two have sparred before, so I don't think they would have walked into this fight if they thought that Huni couldn't actually have Faiga Opelu's measure. I think they obviously think that based on previous sparring sessions and the experience that he's had in sparring with him, that he should be able to get the job done here. So this is going to be a card on October the 22nd, and I believe that world-rated cruiserweight Jai Opataya is going to be headlining that card. But there's going to be a lot of interest with Huni coming into the heavyweight division. As I say, there is a groundswell of support. I'm seeing it in Australia, and also, a bit of peripheral effect in New Zealand too from boxing fans about this guy and what he can do. He is a talent. And I think with some of the next wave, the next crop starting to come through, I think we're more than ready for this next batch of prospects. I was actually talking about this on my Patreon recently in a video, because obviously with the Olympics pushed back, we would have seen all these guys in the ring if the Olympics hadn't been postponed. We would have actually seen these guys, meddling and who was the next crop coming through, etc. So some of the buzz and the hype that they could have had has sort of been taken away for the time being. But this sort of entrance into the heavyweight division, if he can go in there, look good, take a title in his first fight, that's going to set him up well. That's a good way to try, create a good narrative, build his profile in the heavyweight division more broadly, and start to connect with some fans, because there'll be a lot of boxing fans in the Australasian region, that are aware of who this guy is and maybe have been keeping an eye out for him. But more broadly, this will be a fresh name, a fresh guy that a lot of heavyweight fans, boxing fans more broadly, won't know too much about. But you can just see by the clips running in the background that this guy is a talent. So I'm looking forward to this fight. It's going to be quite an interesting one. Not sure in terms of the details of how many rounds this is, but I would imagine because it's for a title, it's going to be at least 10 rounds. Possibly it will actually be for 12. I'm not exactly sure what the rules for contesting the Australian heavyweight title are, but yeah, it would be a minimum of 10, I would say. And it will be interesting to see if he can go in there, really break down Opelu and even get a stoppage here. And Faiga Opelu, if you don't know who he is, so he's 26 years old, the current holder of the Australian title, record of 13-1-1. But he has fought in recent times some more familiar names like a Julius Long, Hunter Sam, and there's also Patrick Inenya. So he is of a sort of certain level, and sort of going back to that Joseph Parker comparison, when I look at Faiga Opelu, I sort of think that Parker was facing that sort of a level of opposition at about the sort of sixth fight or so, when he fought a faded Franz Botha. So at that point, Botha was pretty shot, but Opelu and him were probably on about the same level. Earlier in his career, Joseph Parker was facing, like a lot of regular prospects, some pretty soft opposition. So they're stepping right into the deep end here, wanting to make a splash, get his name out there and start to build the sort of buzz behind his career and on to the next one. And by the time he actually goes to Tokyo, if that goes ahead, he may actually be 2, 3, 4 fights deep in his pro career. Often the Australian sort of scene, things can move quite quickly. You don't necessarily have months and months in between fights. He could be quite active. And in terms of if Tokyo does go ahead, that's going to be good for him because he will be able to get some rounds in, which at the moment with amateur boxing effectively being cancelled, he's not able to do beyond sparring in the gym. But I like this announcement. Justis Huni is a talent to watch and stepping into it. Sort of he's not leaving anything to the imagination here for his first fight, going for the Australian title first up. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.